Today is day 18 of our free sewing class. Thank you for always coming back to watch, and thank you for learning. If you are new to this class, check my channel for day 1 to day 17. We've covered a lot for the past 17 days. So you might need to go back so that you will know the beginning, and you will learn from the beginning. Alright, in today's class, we'll be learning how to draft bodies with DARTS. Just like we learned yesterday we were able to draft bodies without that, but today I'll be adding that. And I must say that there are some explanation that I would have loved to make so that you will know the how to pick that or how to take that. But I just reason it might be a little bit complicated for beginners level, so I will just do something general now. And maybe with time, as you move on in your sewing journey, you will understand how to take accurate that depending on the measurements of your client. All right, so now, just as I did yesterday, the first line I drew is our reference line. From the reference line, I will draw the half length measurement, and I added 1 inch. The half length is supposed to be 16, but I made it 17. And I explained yesterday that this 1 inch is for joining of the shoulder, half inch, and the joining of the waist, depending on what you want to do with the bodies. So after that, I picked 3 inches and 5 inches. Then I will come down and take 1.5 inches. I explained all this yesterday. If you have not watched yesterday's video, please do well to watch it so that you understand what I'm doing in this particular video. It's almost the same as yesterday's. The only difference here will be the dart. All right, so the next thing is to take my shoulder to shoulder divided by 2, and I will just come down a little bit, same measurements, shoulder to shoulder divided by 2. Why I like picking it at 2 points is for me to be able to get a straight line. So I'll just draw my straight line, and on this straight line, that is where I will input my armhole measurement. I will mark 8 on this line, which is the armhole depth. You just measure your client and put the armhole measurements there. And from this particular point, that is where I'll put my bust divided by 4. Bust circumference divided by 4. By now, you should know how to measure your bust divided by 4. And I will add 1 inch sewing allowance. I will add 1 inch seam allowance at that point. Yesterday, we didn't add seam allowance, but today I just said let's add seam allowance. So I will just come up by 2.5 inches, and from that point, I will draw my armhole curve. I will draw my armhole curve. I'm trying to draft it in the most simplest form or manner so that you won't get confused. There are still some technicalities if you want a perfect work, but for now, let's just draft it and make it basic. The next measurement I'll put is the waist divided by 4, the waist circumference divided by 4. I'll add 1 inch dart allowance. Remember, on the bust, where I input the bust measurement, I didn't put dart allowance. But on this waist, because we are taking waist dart, so I added 1 inch dart allowance and 1 inch seam allowance. Then I will join the 2 points, that is down on the waist and on the bust. All right. So now the next thing is to know where our darts will be. Now, in previous lesson we learned about bust point to bust point, that is your bust span. So it is on this bust span that our waist dart will be. So what you do is your bust span divided by 2. Here the bust span is 8.5, so I'm dividing it by 2, which is 4.25. That is the point I measured. I just marked. Then I'll come up a little and mark the same 4.25. I like marking twice so that my lines will be straight. So I'll just draw a straight line But before I draw that straight line, I want to mark out my bust line. So I'll measure from the shoulder line, which is my reference line, to my bust line. That is when you measure from your shoulder to where your bust is. So I'll mark the line and draw the straight line. And why am I putting this line? Because I don't want my dart to start from that bust. I don't want it to start from my bust line. So I want to know where my bust line is, so that I will come down. You can come down by maybe 1.5 inches or 2 inches. Even you can come down by 1 inch, depending on how long you want your dart to be. If you watch the video about dart manipulation, I explain this point. So please, if you have not watched all the recommended videos, please make sure you do, because it will help you and you can watch it as many times as possible. Now I have already drawn the line, and that line will be my dart leg. You should know what that leg is, and you know the dart allowance I left is just 1 inch. So I will take 1 inch, half inch to the right, half inch to the left, and I will draw my dart leg. So basically that is the simplest way I can explain how to put your dart. And by now you should know the purpose of that, what that is doing in your garment, and when to take that. There are some people's measurement that doesn't need that. By now you should know that some people, you don't need that. Then if you are sewing a stretchy material, you don't need to put that. That you should know. So the next thing is I want to show the dart. I want to transfer the dart to the other side of this pattern, since you see that it is folded. So I'll just do the neck, the same neck that I did yesterday, that is 3 by 3 inches, and I will transfer the dart, and we will use this same pattern to cut out the back. Now I must say that because this is a beginner's class, I told you there are some other little technicalities about that you are supposed to know. But as a beginner, just let's make it simple for you, because actually your front dart is supposed to be different from the back dart because of the bust. You don't have bust at your back, so the front that has that bust, the measurement or the value of your front bust is actually different, supposed to be different from the back bust. But for now, at beginners level, I don't want to confuse you, because if I have to start explaining where the difference comes in and how to take the difference, you might be confused. But as you go on in your sewing journey, you will get to understand that part. So let's just leave it simple like this. I just picked 1 inch. But if you watch my dart manipulation video, I think I explained it. So please, if you have not watched that video, do well to watch it, so that maybe you will understand. You should, actually. So try and watch that video. I will still drop the link of the video in the description box of this particular video, so that you can watch it. So this is me just trying to transfer my darts from the right to the left, and I'll cut out the pattern so that we can use this pattern to draft the back pattern. Okay, so I'm done with this. The next thing is to pick another pattern paper, place the front, and mark out my reference line, mark out my zipper allowance. You can use 1 inch, 2 inches, 1.5 inches, depending on what you want for your zipper allowance. And I'll just place the front on it, and I'll cut it out. All right, so the next thing is to mark where my dart will be on the back. Same as the front, I will use my nipple to nipple measurements, divided by 2. Then I will mark where my bust point is, my bust line. Then I will draw the bust line. I will draw the bust line, horizontal line. Then I will come down by 2 inches, and this is not static. You can use 1 inch, you can use 1.5 inch. The only thing is your dart is not supposed to start from where your bust point is, so that is the reason for coming down. So I'll just, since I used 1 inch for the back dart as well, I will come to the right 1/2 inch, to the left 1/2 inch, and I will join my dart leg. And I'll do this to the right and to the left. As you know, because of the zipper, the back will be open so that you can put zipper at that point. All right, this is basically how to draft your bodice with a waist dart. We have different type of darts, as you know, but this is a waist dart. So here I'll just put the neckline measurement, 1 inch depth, 3 inches width, and I'll just cut it out. Now I must say here that you see that we use the front bodies to cut the back bodies, but when I was teaching about measurement, I told you that sometimes the back half length might be different from the front half length. So please take note of that. If your client's front half length measurement is different from the back, please make sure you adjust your pattern accordingly. For example, for people that are busty, their front measurements, their front half length will be different from the back half length. That's the reason why you have to measure the front half length and the back half length, so that the clothes will be perfect. So please, that is one important information I need to let you know. Don't forget that. Measure your client's front half length and measure the back half length, so that you can use it when drafting and adjust your pattern accordingly. All right, this is the simplest form of how to draft a bodice. The next video I will upload will be on how to draft a blouse. That is it won't stop at the waist now, it will stop at the hip line. Stay tuned, I will upload that after this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.